What up, squad? Welcome back to your favorite class of the day. That would be ELA1 with Mr. Williamson, your favorite class of the day. So very exciting, very important day. A ton of pages. You're already through 4 of them, but we got a lot to cover. A lot of it's just going to be me reading, so less questions today, a lot more of reading and just kind of enjoying the plot of the story. Critical, important pages to the novel. Buckle in, get yourself ready, because things going to be crazy. You know what I'm saying? All right. So the quote of the day comes from former President Herbert Hoover, not a very liked guy. But the quote comes from nonetheless. He says, "When there is a lack of honor in the government, the morals of the whole people are poisoned." So today we're going to take a look at what happens to a group when their leadership has no morals and honor. Kind of affects the rest of them as well. Which brings us to our daily objective. Our daily objective, I can explain the outcome of the conflict at Castle Rock. So if you remember, Castle Rock is this little area on the edge of the island. Jack and his tribe are going to kind of take residence at Castle Rock, right? So in the pages you just read, Jack and a few of the hunters come and steal Piggy's glasses. They do this so that they can have fire. Piggy, Ralph, Sam, and Eric, they need to get the glasses back. 1, so Piggy can see, but 2, so that they can make a rescue fire. Without that, they're kind of, So they're going to come, and there's going to be a conflict at Castle Rock. So at the end of this lesson, I want you to be able to explain what happens and kind of what it means for the novel. Okay, everyone, so I need you to go ahead and open up to page 169. If you don't have your novel and you're not open to 169, go ahead and pause and do that now. So remember, reading with me, you become a better reader. Not only that, but you're going to need to look back in your book for a couple of questions. So our focus for the day, Ralph and Piggy make a plan to get Piggy's glasses back. So what is their plan, and is it a good one, is what you're going to kind of be determining on these pages. So pay attention to that as we read. So we are starting on chapter 11. Remember that Jack and his tribe have just stolen Piggy's glasses. They kind of beat them up pretty badly too when they stole the glasses. So now we are coming back to Ralph and Piggy kind of recovering from this attack. Okay. In the short chill of dawn, the 4 boys gathered around the black smudge where the fire had been, while Ralph knelt and blew. Gray, feathery ashes scurried hither and thither at his breath, but no spark shone among them. The twins watched anxiously, and Piggy sat expressionless behind the luminous wall of his myopia. That means not being able to see. Ralph continued to blow till his ears were singing with the effort, but then the first breeze of dawn took the job off his hands and blinded him with ashes. He squatted back, swore, and rubbed water out of his eyes. No use. Eric looked down at him through a mask of dried blood. Piggy peered in the general direction of Ralph. "Of course it's no use, Ralph. Now we got no fire." Ralph brought his face within a couple feet of Piggy's. "Can you see me?" "A bit." Ralph allowed the swollen flap of his cheek to close his eye again. "They've got our fire." Rage shrilled his voice. "They stole it." "That's them," said Piggy. "They blinded me, see? That's Jack Meridew. You call an assembly, Ralph. We got to decide what to do." "An assembly for only us? It's all we got." "Sam, let me hold on to you." They went toward the platform. "Blow the conch," said Piggy. "Blow as loud as you can." The forest re-echoed, and birds lifted, crying out of the treetops as on the first morning, ages ago. Both ways the beach was deserted. Some little ones came from the shelters. Ralph sat down on the polished trunk, and the 3 others stood before him. He nodded, and Sam and Eric sat down on the right. Ralph pushed the conch into Piggy's hands. He held the shining thing carefully and blinked at Ralph. "Go on, then." "I just take the conch to say this. I can't see no more, and I gotta go get my glasses back. Awful things have been done on this island. I voted for you for chief. He's the only one who ever got anything done. So now you speak, Ralph, and tell us what. Or else..." Piggy broke off, sniveling. Ralph took back the conch as he sat down. "Just an ordinary fire. You'd think we could do that, wouldn't you? Just a smoke signal so we can be rescued. Are we savages or what? Only now there's no signal going up. Ships may be passing. Do you remember how he went hunting and the fire went out and ships passed by? And they all think he's bestest chief. Then there was that's his fault too. If it hadn't been for him, it would have never happened. Now Piggy can't see, and they came stealing. Ralph's voice ran up. At night, in darkness, and stole our fire. They stole it. We'd have given them fire if they had asked, but they stole it, and the signal's out, and we can't ever be rescued. Don't you see what I mean? We'd have given them fire for themselves, only they stole it. He paused lamely as the curtain flickered in his brain. Piggy held out his hand for the conch. What you going to do, Ralph? This is just talk without deciding. I want my glasses. I'm trying to think. Supposing we go looking like we used to, washed and hairbrushed. After all, we aren't savages, really, and being rescued isn't a game. He opened the flap of his cheek and looked at the twins. We could smarten up a bit and then go. We ought to take our spears, said Sam, even Piggy, because we may need them. You haven't got the conch. Piggy held up the shell. You can take spears if you want, but I shan't. What's the good? I'll have to be led like a dog anyhow. Yes, laugh. Go on, laugh. There's them on this island as would laugh at anything. And what happened? What's grown-ups going to think? Young Simon was murdered. And there was that other kid who had the mark on his face. Who's seen him since we first come here? Piggy, stop a minute. I got the conch. I'm going to that Jack Merridew and tell him I am. You'll get hurt. What can he do more than he has? I'll tell him what's what. You let me carry the conch, Ralph. I'll show him one thing he hasn't got. Piggy paused for a moment and peered around at the dim figures. The shape of the old assembly, trodden in the grass, listened to him. I'm going to him with this conch in my hands. I'm going to hold it out. Look, I'm going to say, you're stronger than I am and haven't got asthma. You can see, I'm going to say, and with both eyes. But I don't ask for my glasses back, not as a favor. I don't ask you to be a sport, I'll say. Not because you're strong, but because what's right's right. Give me my glasses, I'm going to say. You got to. Piggy ended, flushed and trembling. He pushed the conch quickly into Ralph's hands as though in a hurry to be rid of it and wiped the tears from his eyes. The green light was gentle about them, and the conch lay at Ralph's feet, fragile and white. A single drop of water that had escaped Piggy's fingers now flashed on the delicate curve like a star. Okay, so that's going to bring us into question one. Right there on page 171, towards the middle to the bottom of the page, Piggy kind of goes over his plan. How does Piggy plan to get his glasses back? And do you think it'll work? Okay, so I want you to answer that in at least 2 sentences. Do that now. Okay, so Piggy's plan is to go to Castle Rock and appeal to Jack's sense of mercy. He's going to tell Jack he's going to admit that Jack is stronger and ask him to return the glasses that he desperately needs to be able to see. So he's going to try to be like, Jack, I know you're stronger than me. Please give me back my glasses because I need them. If that plan is going to work, if you think it's going to work, and we'll see. We return now to the bottom of page 171. At last, Ralph sat up. At last, Ralph sat up straight and drew back his hair. All right, I mean it. You can try if you like. We'll go with you. He'll be painted, said Sam timidly. You know how he'll be. He won't think much of us. If he gets waxy, we had it. Ralph scowled at Sam. Dimly, he remembered something Simon had said to him once, by the rocks. Don't be silly, he said, and then he added quickly, let's go. He held out the conch to Piggy, who flushed, this time with pride. You must carry it. When we're ready, I'll carry it. Piggy sought in his mind for words to convey his passionate willingness to carry the conch against all odds. I don't mind. I'll be glad, Ralph. Only I'll have to be led. Ralph put the conch back on the shining log. We'd better eat and then get ready. Okay, so that's going to bring us into our second question. A little typo here. What does Ralph do with the conch? Why is this important, and how does Piggy feel about this? Okay, so right there in those lines we just read, what does Ralph do with the conch, and why is this important, and how does Piggy feel about what Ralph does with the conch? Go ahead and answer that in at least 2 sentences now. Okay, so Ralph insists. He says, Piggy, you hold the conch. This is kind of symbolic of Ralph trying to empower Piggy using the rules of the society that they had built. Piggy feels honored by this and is excited to take on the responsibility, despite the fact that Jack will likely not care about the conch. Jack probably won't care that Piggy has the conch, but Piggy feels a lot of pride that Ralph wants him to carry it. So now we continue on in the middle of page 172 they made their way. They made their way to the devastated fruit trees. Piggy was held to his food and found some by touch. While they ate, Ralph thought of the afternoon. We'll be like we were. We'll wash. Sam gulped down a mouthful and protested. But we bathe every day. Ralph looked at the filthy objects before him and sighed. We ought to comb our hair. Only it's too long. I've got both socks left in the shelter, said Eric, so we could pull them over our heads like caps, sort of. We could find some stuff, said Piggy, and tie your hair back. Like a girl? No, of course not. Then we must go as we are, said Ralph, and they won't be any better. Eric made a detaining gesture. But they'll be painted. You know how it is. The others nodded. They understood only too well the liberation into savagery that the concealing paint brought. Well, we won't be painted, said Ralph, because we aren't savages. Sam and Eric looked at each other. All the same. Ralph shouted, no paint! He tried to remember. Smoke, he said. We want smoke. He turned on the twins fiercely. I said smoke. We've got to have smoke. There was silence, except for the multitudinous murmur of the bees. At last, Piggy spoke kindly. Of course we have. Because the smoke's a signal, and we can't be rescued if we don't have smoke. I knew that, shouted Ralph. He pulled his arm away from Piggy. Are you suggesting? I'm just saying, that's what you always say, said Piggy hastily. I thought for a moment. I hadn't, said Ralph loudly. I knew it all the time. I hadn't forgotten. Piggy nodded propitiatingly. You're chief, Ralph. You remember everything. I hadn't forgotten. Of course not. The twins were examining Ralph curiously, as though they were seeing him for the first time. Okay, so final question of this section. 2 quotes about face paint in Jack and the Savages. He'll be painted, said Sam timidly. You know how he'll be. And the second quote. They knew only too well the liberation is like freedom. So they knew only too well the liberation or freedom into savagery that the concealing paint brought. So my question to you. What effect does paint seem to have on the boys? Why does Ralph insist that they won't be painted when they go to Castle Rock? So in other words, something kind of happens to the boys when they have paint on. I want you to tell me what kind of happens to the boys when they put on face paint. And then lastly, why does Ralph insist that they won't be painted when they go to Castle Rock? Answer in 2 to 3 sentences now. Okay, so face paint allows the boys to hide their identity and conduct acts of savagery. It's almost like when they put on the face paint, it's like they feel like they're someone else and they can do whatever they want. Ralph says they won't be painted because he believes that gives them some type of moral superiority over Jack and his tribe. So not being painted kind of makes him and them morally better than Jack and the tribe.